Hello, hello. Is this thing recording? Is this thing recording? Let's see. Yes, chat, it is recording. What's good? What's good, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to my channel. I'm Keon, aka Keonce, Hoodoo practitioner, hence the reason I'm doing this video. Tarot reader, astrologer, DJ, new DJ. Um, Also, I wanted to do this video because I am a native Mississippian. Grew up in Mississippi. All my family is either from Mississippi Delta or Louisiana, as far back as we know. And this movie centers really like hit home. Um, Especially just with the different kinds of themes that are in the movie, that are in the Southern Delta and the Delta South. I'm going to get into all the things. I have a whole kind of slideshow. We're going to look at some pictures and just do some little textual analysis, look at things, do a little conversation. But first off, I did want to say, y'all know I'm a hoodoo, so I got to talk about my oils. I do have this oil. It is the reason it looks like this because I've been using it. But this is my Evil Eye and Hateration Reversal Oil. Very powerful oil. It has vetiver root, agrimony, hyssop, camphor, and some other ingredients in it that are great for spiritual protection, jinx breaking. If you're doing any kinds of spiritual detox, I actually drip this into my baths, my spiritual baths, cleansing baths, like once a week. I do have usually I have a vetiver root that's usually in there, that I add, and then this one's a little bit more cleared out, but I like to put the debris and stuff in there for the peoples because they likes to see. Let me look at the volume. They likes to see the debris. So this is actually, I'm on the last leg, but y'all see these are a lot of herbs in here. Vetiver root, like I said, agrimony, hyssop. So head to the website millennialsoulfood.com/store, or just go to millennialsoulfood.com and then click on store and you will see the oil. So go ahead and get you some. It's very well priced, under $30. So go and check it out. So yeah, so we are going to be talking about the Sinners movie today. And Sinners is really interesting. The different themes that we find are very much so related to different kinds of themes that we see in Black Southern culture, especially as it relates to the Mississippi Delta. So this is set in Mississippi, in Sharecropper, Mississippi in 1932. Um, and let's just go ahead and pull up this here. So here I have actually a map of Mississippi. And actually, my grandmother was born in like 1928. So she would have been 4 years old when this movie came out. And she was actually born around where you see it says like Grenada. So she was kind of born around in that area. And as you can see, Clarksdale is a little over an hour from there. And so a lot of the sharecropping and a lot of the agriculture that was in that region was based on the fact that the Mississippi River would wash over. And so as you can see where the river, I wonder, is there a pointer on here? With the river, that extends from where you see South Haven at the top all the way down to where you see Vicksburg, and then it goes down all the way down into New Orleans. So this was a major port. Clarksdale was a major area of commerce, a major area of mixing of culture. Because if you don't already know, Mississippi is a Native American term, and there were a lot of Native people living in Mississippi before of course, colonization. And I do definitely believe that there were Black natives that were already there, that had been there for like a long time. Just the stories my grandmother would tell me about our family having like Black, she would call them Black Indians and them and stuff like that. But like, for instance, like my great grandmother, well, great grandmother, she had hair like down to her back that was basically straight. So that's definitely giving native steez, you know? Of course, not like I'm trying to deny my blackness or anything like that. If anything, I'm expanding the definition of what it means to be black because there were Black natives here. And then a lot of times, this is kind of an aside, but a lot of the native people that was on them reservations were white people, actually, when they actually went and did the genealogy. So that is very interesting fact. But as you can see, I just like to show the map because it shows the topography of things. So as you can see from Memphis down to Vicksburg, where you see Jackson, that kind of is the line from where it's like North Mississippi and then Southern Mississippi. And then you have like the Gulf, which is around below Hattiesburg. So once you get to Hattiesburg and you start driving down that area from Hattiesburg to like Picayune and Gulfport, that's the Gulf South, that's Gulf Mississippi. Whereas Jackson, that's Central South Mississippi. And then as you can see, there's a body of water that goes, a river looking thing that goes from like South Haven to Greenwood to Yazoo City and then to Vicksburg. That area is like the Delta. That's like the very rich soil area. And then once you get past that, that is, you know, North Mississippi area. And as you can see, this is literally where blues was created. And then after some time, people migrated down to like New Orleans and blues mixed with all these other cultures, cultural, you know, cultural musical forms. And that is what had created jazz. But blues was the blueprint, period, for all of the chords in blues. The different melodies in blues are like the foundation of, you know, R&B music today. It's the foundation of a lot of, period, what American music is. It was created by Black people, point blank, period. Blues was before country music. It was before, it was the music, and that it's the most, it's very connected to a lot of West African musical traditions. So it's really important to understand, you know, blues music is very indigenous to Black people. It's indigenous to us. It's literally how we channel and transmuted this energy that was like, you know, coming from being involved in chattel slavery, literally not even owning our own lives, you know. So I actually grew up in Tupelo, and I went to college in Oxford, Mississippi. So you can see Tupelo is like northeast Mississippi. Grew up like an hour and a half from Memphis. I used to go to Memphis all the time. My dad lived there, went to the mega church. I grew up like Southern Missionary Baptist and then Kojic. So a lot of that music, you know, that the music came from the blues. And it's very interesting how they do draw this dichotomy, because I remember my grandmother would talk about the blues, and you know, a lot of people were getting turned up, but it was a place of healing after people been working in the fields, you know what I mean, for all day, all morning. They oppressed. You want to go get a little juke. You want to get a little juke in, honey. And I did also learn from Khadija on YouTube that Juke is also a Wolof word, and it's like Juke. And Juke is like a sudden movement, or someone who thinks they're kind of like high and mighty. So it's like, juking. So yet another connection to Africa. There's a lot of different connections. So also, it was really big to talk about the blues in a certain way, um, that was antithetical to Christianity, because a lot of the men were going to these juke joints and they were spending their money and they weren't able to spend it as much as at the church. So it wasn't necessarily about it being demonic. It was more about the fact that them preachers weren't even getting the money that they wanted. They were like, oh my God, my numbers is off. What's happening? So that is really important to remember, when it comes to understanding the blues and stuff like that. Now, I will say the land in Mississippi is very mystical. Y'all see it's near Louisiana too. Like there's a lot of spiritual energies that exist in this area. Even if I had done some content about this, but if you look around, like from Meridian to Philadelphia-ish, that area, there's a lot of Native American folklore about that area having this space that was basically a hole that led to the center of the earth grow. And they were saying that's where the first humans stepped foot onto the planet. So that's just a little bit of Native American lore. And y'all know we see them in the film. What's good? What's good? My people's in them. Um, but yes, I do. Sometimes I was thinking about, in terms of like, if I were looking at it in terms of witchy, kind of witchy way, what's the origins of the haints and the vampires in the Delta? And so I do really think, sometimes I think spirits can transmute into other forms. Because I will say there is a lot of superstition, there is a lot of lore, um, in Mississippi culture, especially that old timey culture. But it's kind of like, where'd the spirits come from? Because there are so many different kinds of nature spirits that exist. And the Native Americans, let's just go ahead and hop into it, honey. The Native Americans, this is literally the only picture I could find. If I send you this, because I couldn't, it's not, I wasn't a lot of images out on the movie. But this is one of the Native Americans. So in the movie, they pull up to this white family's house, after chasing a vampire. And the vampire is, I think his name is Remmick. But we see him, he's about to burn up. The sun is going down. This is about to be his time to get it. But it was cool to see them go up. The Native Americans, they looked very classy. They were speaking their native language, but they tried to warn the people about the vampires and the haints. And I'm pretty sure they are used to these kinds of spiritual presences, um, because they had been on the land for thousands of years. And I do think that there is something deeper to stories about haints, especially haints and vampires. And like, vampires, they say in the movie, actually trade and they take your soul. But let me look this up real quick. Um Haints are spectral, girl. Haints are rooted in Gullah Geechee folklore and represent evil spirits or ghosts, often the souls of those who died with unfinished business or wronged in life. And so the vampire is more like a physical manifestation. You know what I mean? Whereas a haint is like a ghost kind of spirit. So I definitely do. There's a lot of haints in New Orleans, a lot of hates in all these areas with a lot of trauma. So there could be a lot of hates in the Delta. I'm just telling you what I have felt being out in nature because I've always been very spiritual, and um I've always been grew up Christian, but I had always revered nature a certain way. And when you grow up in Mississippi, especially the country, you get used to certain kinds of signs, and different kinds of signals and different kinds of just ways of being that make you deeply rooted and connected to like the ways of the earth and you know what different kinds of energies exist on the planet and especially in nature. I'm telling y'all, there's a lot of different stuff out there. That's why they be saying don't go into certain forests. Y'all saw the bouncer when he went to go pee, that's when he got. But whenever you go into certain environments, certain forests, the spirits start calling your name. That's how they get victims and stuff like that. So period. You know what I mean? Quick ad. Evil eye and hateration reversal oil on sale. Get your cleansings because clean them haints off. Clean that energy, especially if you be going places, moving through different spaces. It's a lot of haints. It's a lot of energies. We pick up on a lot of stuff, especially if you're kind of psychic. So anyway, let's keep moving. That was enough about the Native American lore. Let's move next to this scene here. Whenever the movie first started, I wasn't sure if Sammy was actually a vampire and if he was gonna kill all them people in the movie theater in the church. But then I do, once he goes up, his dad, who is played by Saul Williams. He's actually played by Saul Williams. He's like, you gotta put down the guitar, put down in Jesus' name, put down the guitar. And he was like, I ain't putting down the guitar. I ain't putting down the guitar. And we do eventually learn that right after that, he drove up to Chicago, honey, but he had to go say bye. But this is very interesting. Everyone is dressed in all white. I mean, the church can be protective as far as them being like, don't be out here playing the blues at night, because Sammy's dad did warn him. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this movie about the devil. But also, I do want to interrogate what that definition of the devil is, because a lot of people do associate the crossroads specifically with the devil. When if you go into like more indigenous beliefs about spirituality, the crossroads is where you can meet many different types of spirits. Like you can meet a lot of different types because the crossroads is like it's like the liminal space between here and there, if that makes sense. So let me share my screen real quick. It's like the liminal space. Let me go to this here. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Which one is it? Clarksdale? Yeah. So this actually right here is a website. And it has a picture of Robert Johnson. It has a picture of the crossroads here. And so this is where it says Robert Johnson was also a part of the 27 Club. Yeah. Listen here, baby. Listen. I'm talking to you now. The 27 Club is people who, quote unquote, were like cursed Look it up. It's a lot of musicians that died at 27. Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain. A lot of them passed away at 27. I think Jim Morrison too. Jimi Hendrix too. But Robert Johnson is who Sammy's character is actually based on, to my knowledge. And Robert Johnson is known to have made a pact with the devil because they say that when he left town, he couldn't play that guitar. But when he got back from doing whatever, he could play the guitar. Hey. Except he was bad. He was a bad mother playing the guitar. So Sammy's character is basically based on Robert Johnson. So next, let's go on and we see the twins. The twins, super interesting energy. Another part of that liminality, twins. I think it's called Ibejis in West African culture. I don't know. I think it's Yoruban. Well, duh, of course, because that's Ifa, Ibejis. But yeah, I feel like that principle exists in other parts of Africa too, but specifically in Nigeria with Yoruban culture, the Ibejis, the twins are connected into that liminality that we see as a theme in the Crossroads. So it's also interesting that we have the different colors. The red is also a color that is represented by different figures, like Eshu is like red and black in Ifa. Red is also like associated with the devil. And whenever they start the juke joint, they actually paint the sign red. A lot of foreshadowing in this movie. So we see Stack here. Stack is in red. He's that twin who is like showy. He also is the one who has the love interest captivated Mary, the white. Well, she was called quote unquote an octoroon, which is 1/8 black back in them days. And her mom's dad was half black. So that's why she looks a certain way. And then we have Smoke, who is quote unquote the more serious one. I don't like to say good or evil. Because even if you think about it, the vampires, I mean, I don't know if they're evil necessarily. It's just another manifestation of being. It's another type of energy. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of energy. So I don't want to say that Stack is like the evil one and then Smoke is the good one, because Stack actually did not bite Sammy when he had the chance. Like he actually in the end of the movie, he had known where Sammy was the whole time for like years, decades after the movie is over. It's also interesting, the love interest Smoke is also connected to his spiritual side in a very interesting way through Annie. And I'm gonna get to Annie because she's basically like my favorite character in the movie, the most powerful in my opinion, and because she transcended. Period. Like she's a badass character. So yeah, we see that Smoke is there. Smoke is like the business person, and then Stack is kind of like more like la la la. He carries out different stuff. There is a part where they talk about how they had to kill their dad because men was beating the hell out of people back in those days. Like, so they have a very interesting story based on trauma. Smoke has some PTSD. I think that's why he couldn't really roll the cigarettes. He actually had killed their father because Stack got knocked out and Smoke was just tired of it. And so he actually killed their dad. Yeah. Very interestingly. And I think he was also like a soldier. But yeah, through Smoke, we're introduced to Annie, my favorite character. Oh my God, I love her. So with Annie, She she's actually played by, I think, this British woman. Let me look and see what her name is. Annie is played by Wunmi Mosaku. I loved her character. Like, I love the fact that she living on her own. She doing her hoodoo. She got her hoodoo shot, and then Smoke had to come back. I like that she's full figured. I like that she's dark skinned. I like that she's given space to enjoy sexuality with a foreign man like Smoke. Ooh. We also see her hoodoo practices. We also get a little bit of Creole. She starts speaking during the scene with Smoke. This is a scene where she's actually blessing his mojo bag. And a mojo bag in hoodoo is, you can have different kinds, but this one specifically was for protection. And so it was really cool to see her do the 4 cardinal directions with the liquor and bless it. Um, and then I think she had sold like some high John to these kids before Smoke got there. Well, before they start talking and stuff like that. But it's, I love her. It's like, her scene is amazing. She is the hoodoo lady. And she's actually the one who knew the most about the Haints, and who was able to, she was able to help them, like, stave them off. Like, and then she also, like, I love the scene, like, okay, let me actually go to the climax, because there's the climax part. But okay, let me just talk about Annie, because some of my favorite parts about her, she was throwing the bones, doing the divination, and whenever the attack happened, the climax scene, she already knew what was up. Spirit had already shown her that she was gonna probably lose her life, but at the same time, life transmutes into other energy, and so she also, I think she and Smoke had a child that had passed away. And so the bones were like, you're going to be going back to be with your kid. And so in Ifa, there are different spirits that are, they can be like lovers, they can be like kids, but they're like relatives that are in heaven that can't wait for you to get back. So they don't really see death as like, as like, oh my God, I'm taking them from the earth. It's kind of like they're being reunited with, the oneness of the infinite ancestral energy, whatever you want to call it. So I really like her. Smoke show up. He busts down. And then he asks her to cook, because what they're doing, Smoke and Stack smuggled in, and this is the theme you see with the gangsters. They smuggled in like some Italian wine and like Irish beer. So they was like kind of hustling the gangsters, because they came from Chicago. So it's very interesting. They talk about coming back down to fight the devil. It's like, well, I guess y'all did kind of fight some kind of monsters. So in the process of all of this, we are introduced to Sammy. Sammy, and I'm gonna put Sammy on here again. Well, actually, I'm gonna put, well, Sammy. Remember, Sammy is kin to Smoke and Stack. So Sammy's dad is Smoke and Stack's dad's brother. So I guess they're kind of like cousins. Yes, cousins, first cousins or something like that. Oh my God, Del Orlando. I love Delta Slim. So right before the scene that was super impactful, like one of my favorite scenes, the portal, um, Delta Slim meets with Sammy and gives him kind of like a little a little lesson, like, a little lesson about the blues, about spirituality, about it being indigenous to us. I really, really like Delta Slim. Like his character, he added like so much comedic relief, but also just so much like just soul, like he had a lot of trauma that he was dealing with, that he dealt with through alcoholism. I want to say that I don't really want to say alcoholism, because I mean it was alcoholism, but he was drinking corn liquor. He was doing what he could to get by. Been a musician for 10 years at this bar. Um and I really like his character a whole lot. Like there's a scene where he is talking to Sammy and Stack about like this person that he knew who got like lynched. Um it was a traumatic story. They also put like the sound effects in the background, but the main point of it was to express that his friend got lynched, but and at the end of it he like just started beating like so that is how a lot of the blues started, is like them expressing just trauma, and then starting the song out jamming. And apparently that scene was improvised, so that was one of my favorite scenes actually. Okay, so let's see. This is actually the part when Sammy starts playing the guitar. When he opened that mouth, child, they be like, oops, sorry, I did not mean to put that up there. When he opens that mouth and starts singing, literally the guitar opens a portal. And I think the guitar was silver because he used it to hit Remmick at some point. Remmick is the vampire. But Sammy starts playing that guitar, child, and it creates this portal literally between the past, present, and future. And we see the different ancestral presences that began to come into the juke joint. We see the future. They correlate it with like the twerking. They do a lot of different things. Actually, this YouTuber, I think her name is Centeno, she did a whole recap. Like, I think there was some controversy where the dancers did not get the credit that they were due. And so they actually sent her video to the production studio, and they were like, I forgot who did send it, but the video was sent to them, to the production studio, and now they're, I think, correcting the credits and stuff like that. But this is a super cool video. Yeah, Melany Centeno.
Did you know that the dancers and singers weren't in the credits? Honestly, this is an industry-wide problem.
I don't know if you can hear it, but
I did the research for you. I found every single one of them.
She goes
so let's talk about the
through
dancers and sinners. The dance, the film, because
names
that's exactly
them
what the
in the
vampires
video.
are
So
coming
it's
to.
super cool.
Strength, pride, and spiritual presence and connection.
And then
If I
she
had to
talks
guess
about the
whose
different
descendant the B-boy was, I would say.
And then she talks about the different types of dances that people were doing. So it's super cool because we see the sea walkers and stuff. Oh yeah, that was super cool. We see this person. So actually this is a dance that is only done by men, apparently. That was, I think it's from like the 1950s, and it's to revere feminine spirit and to show the grace and stuff like that. So super duper interesting. Like, that was a really interesting scene. Let's see. So yes, he had opened the portal. Yeah. And then that's when Remmick was like, I need you. I want that. I want that. I want that. I want that. So anyway, it all goes to hell because the Chinese lady decided that in the course of everyone getting transformed, she got real triggered because she was like, oh my God, I don't want y'all to go eat my daughter who's in the city, in the town. And she's like, come on in. Because at first, yeah, I don't know if y'all have been seeing those memes where it's like the people, well, it's like everyone's creating content around it, but it's like people being like how I'm answering the door whenever I after watching Sinners, and it's like someone who's like, "Well, you gonna invite me in?" And they're like, "Oh, no, mm-mm. Oh, what's that slobber?" Because the vampires would slobber everywhere, Lord. But anyway, I do think with the vampires, it was very interesting. Like when Annie got killed, actually, they were real sad about her getting killed. Well, whenever Smoke drove the stake into her heart, because she got bit actually after this climax scene. Um, but it's interesting, like the vampires wanted Sammy's like soul. So I do think it says something like the vampires are not necessarily they're not able to leave. They're stuck here for eternity. So in a way they're disconnected from the other realm because they don't die, you know? Whereas humans like we like pass on, which is still it's a gift. Death is like a gift. Like if you want to be real about it, especially as it's seen in any other cultures, it's going to another life. So it's interesting, like how they kind of go into how that power is inherent in humans, especially the ones who are more spiritually gifted, playing the guitar and all that. So this is the climax scene, actually. Right before everything takes place, we see the Chinese lady. She really kind of got on my nerves doing that because I mean, I guess they were going to get killed anyway. I mean, not they were going to get killed, but there's going to be a fight because that the white person they bought this building from was a part of the clan, and he had already like had gathered all these people to basically kill them. So I also have an image from that. Let me see. But let's go back to this. Oh, look at Michael B. Jordan. Oh my God. Wow. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. Anyway, say it again now. Okay, so we see Perlin. She is the one who was cheating on her husband to be there because Sammy, there was some cunnilingus involved. And she's a little older. Anyway, Perlene was funny. She also had a moment where she was singing. She's a very good singer, very good performer. But sometimes I'd be like, she seemed like she was possessed by some different stuff. Very interestingly, the Jezebel spirits, yeah. The Chinese lady, she has the fire. It's funny because she wound up like burning up from that bottle that she threw that eventually burns everything down. Wait. Well, everything didn't burn down necessarily, but the door was burnt. Huh. That's very interesting. Um, I'm trying to remember. Put it down in the comments if you what happened to the fire? How did they put out the fire, child? Or did it just go out? Because she like burned to death. So anyway, this is the climax scene before they get ready to do the do and go in on the vampires and the monster and stuff like that. So let's just skip forward to the scene after everything happens. Stack is gone. The sun is up. Sammy and Smoke survive. And this is one of my favorite scenes. Like Smoke, the white people show up the next day actually, and they think that they're gonna be there, the black people, and they are like, we're gonna kill us a N-word and all this stuff. And Smoke done went through, he knew what was up because the vampires actually did tell him. They gave him a warning about what was going to be going down, and they told him that the clan was planning to show up. And it's funny because the person who was leading it had told Smoke like the clan don't exist no more or whatever. So Smoke kept that in mind, and he planned a whole revenge attack. And so he has all these weapons buried away and stuff like that. And it's really cool because he he really shows how he's like a soldier. I need a soldier. We like them boys up top from the BK. Not like he know how he's from Chicago and he be splitting that money. But this part is really cool how he just like goes in and at a certain point he does get shot, unfortunately. Um and I don't know if he actually lives after that. I think he kind of like dies because he sees Annie in the all white and he sees her and the baby. But before he does pass, best believe he shoots the white person, the person that was trying to get him killed and stuff. So super interesting. And then I want to just end on Annie dressed in all white. That scene makes me want to cry like every time. But she appears to him, um, and she has their baby. And so I think she is kind of like who ushers him back to, you know, to the realm of the ancestors. And so it's super beautiful. This movie was amazing. I went and saw it twice. And let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what were your favorite parts in the movie. What was a part that surprised you? What were some of the spiritual elements that you noticed? What are some things that you noticed that I didn't mention on here? Also, remember the oil child, the oil. Remember the hoodoo oil, that evil eye and hateration oil. I got some a brewing away. We shipping out. Cheers to that. All right. Well, thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel. This is the kind of content I do. I normally do tarot content, hoodoo content, social commentary content. I'm also a sociologist. So, yeah, subscribe. Check out my website, millennialsoulfood.com. Sign up for the newsletter that I'll be sending out. And otherwise, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Peace and blessings. If you stayed to the end, put in the comments a white candle. Give me some white candles in the comments if you stayed to the end. And otherwise, sending y'all so much love. Peace.